Tomorrow marks exactly 3 years since the initial signing of the historic Abraham Accords, normalization deals between Israel, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Now, those deals then led to new forms of cooperation and regional integration in the Middle East and beyond. The mutual opening of embassies and the opening of direct flights from Tel Aviv to the Gulf were just the beginning. So for more insight, we now welcome to studio Dr. Fadi Essmaeel, the former senior staffer at the US Congress and research fellow at the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism. Thank you so much, Fadi, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Studio. So tomorrow marks exactly 3 years. We remember those images so well on the White House lawns, the signing. It was a moment that many people in this region never imagined was possible. Looking back on 3 years, how much progress has been made through your vantage point?
Well, I think the best thing is to compare it to the peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan.
Right.
I mean, that's the way to look at it. Of course, I'm not trying to paint any rosy pictures here. I would never do that. But we see that the whole relationship between these countries is much more vibrant and dynamic than we see with the other with the neighbors, and that is exactly because they're not neighbors in any sense. I mean, we don't have any direct border issues, and so there's a lot less pressure in terms of immediate conflicts, security conflicts on the borders. That helps. You have to understand, this is still an agreement between governments. And let's not forget, these are two Arab Muslim nations. And it isn't like they all became Zionists, and I don't expect them ever to become like that. Anybody who has any dealings with those countries knows that the street looks at it in a much more reserved way than how the government looks at it, especially in Bahrain, but also in the Emirates. However, this is an opening, and I honestly believe that it's in our hands to make it a bigger opening and make it something even better, or to mess it up. It's up to us in many ways. Not everything, like I would say 70–80% of it is on our side. Pretty much the way it was in the beginning of the peace treaty with Egypt. People forget the honeymoon that existed between Israel and Egypt in the first 2 or 3 years. All Israelis went to Egypt twice, 3 times. It looked really positive, but then things happened. So let's hope that we are now on a new pathway.
We certainly are seeing a lot of Israelis flying into Dubai, just as an example, and certainly tourism is being boosted, and there's no doubt in terms of business cooperation. That's the next point exactly. Yeah. Has the pace at which the reciprocal interest been at the same pace that you would have expected it to be 3 years in? For many, this are still early days, so to speak.
Yeah, you have to understand, you're talking about different societies,
sure,
different approaches. In my other hat, I'm also a businessman. I've done business with Dubai, and I've seen the others who come from Western countries. If you don't realize how their pace works and how they do business, and you try to impose on them different way of doing things, it won't work. And many Israeli businessmen failed there exactly because I think their approach was wrong.
But so why was their approach wrong? What should be done differently?
You know, this is the kind of advice that people should pay for.
Well, speak away.
So there are some very specific things you can't do when you are in a meeting. There is a way to do things in the Gulf that goes back to the culture. They first of all want to know who the person is. They want to get into your head, see who you are. I mean, there's a way to do it. It's not just about being nice and going to dinners and lunches with them and just smile at them. And it is not an American business lunch the way we do it. I mean, when I'm in California or in Washington DC or in Florida, you just meet for lunch, you either agree on things or you don't. It's as simple as that. The process is different here. Many Westerners don't do it right. Same issue like we had with Chinese and Taiwanese business dealings. Sometimes you don't, or in Asia in general. It's a different way, a different approach. You make the business with the people, and after that with the numbers. And this is something that people have to learn.
And it is a process, no doubt. People need to learn about each other's cultures. The big fish in the room, so to speak, when it comes to the Abraham Accords is whether or not normalization is likely to happen down the road between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Many obstacles lie in the way, but there is a pressure and an urgency out of Washington for this to happen sooner rather than later. Your thoughts on what exactly it's going to take for this to happen between Riyadh and Jerusalem?
The story is Riyadh and Washington, D.C. Saudi Arabia holds so many cards now that America needs, and it becomes more urgent because China and Russia are getting closer and closer, and even Iran coming closer to Saudi Arabia. And we have now a leadership in Saudi Arabia that knows exactly its worth and how to make the Americans pay with every currency that they have. So, but the United States needs that. United States, we cannot lose Saudi Arabia. You can't. That would be an unmitigated disaster in terms of international policy. The geopolitics of it necessitate that. MBS, Prince Mohammed, he knows that. His people know that. And they will squeeze every last drop out of this. And one of the things have to do with Israel's policy towards Palestinians. Another one will have to do with they want a small nuclear reactor, which there's a very difficult way to say no. Because why should the Iranians, America's foreign enemy, have all this nuclear power and all we want is a civilian even a small one, just as a symbolic gesture? Why should we not? And they should. I mean, why do you agree with them and you give them the money and all that? And other things that have to do with special weapon systems, with access to certain economic issues and so on. And that currency means it's both American and Israeli and other Western countries will have to pay. And it becomes even more urgent because Saudi is looking at other sources to buy weapons and so on. That makes America very nervous. So President Biden needs this deal. And we will see big effects on Israeli policy as well.
We certainly will be watching to see how it unfolds. We always appreciate your insight. Thank you for being here in studio. Dr. Fadi Essmaeel, thank you for being here.